my name is Richard Cree and welcome back to ISGP. We're currently counting down my top 100 games. We've already done the bottom 20 and we're moving on to the next set. That's going to be numbers 80 through 71. So, you know what? Let's just get right into it. Apples.
And then 80 apples.
Alright, coming in at number 80 on my list is a very popular party game, one that I've always enjoyed playing, one that I love to play with my family. It's because hilarity has always ensued. That's Apples to Apples, a game of arbitrary choices, where players are going to have a handful of cards that are nouns, and one person will be the judge. They're going to play an adjective card, and all the other players will play now that they think the judge will think best suits that adjective. Again, a great family game. Just the arguments or the discussions that come along when people try and back and try and get the judge to vote for their answer, and the reasoning behind that is just fantastic. My number 80, Apples to Apples.
79 ghost stories.
Alright, at my number 79, I love co-op games. I love challenging games. And so one of the most challenging co-ops is just natural to be on my list, and that's Ghost Stories. Ghost Stories is probably one of the most difficult co-ops to win ever. I think of all the times we've played it, we've only beat it once, and that was on the easy introductory level. And there's still like 3 levels beyond that, plus 2 expansions that just up the difficulty even more. If you thought Arkham Horror was hard, you gotta try Ghost Stories. And Ghost Stories are a group of ghost hunters trying to protect the village from the ghosts that are coming to haunt it, and taking away the villagers that you need to use their abilities to try and win the game. Very, very much, when they say cooperative, I mean you need teamwork in this one. You can't do this. You can't be like the alpha person that's going to try and run and do everything and let everybody else come up behind you. Everybody's powers are important in this, and everybody needs to work together to save the village, and that's helps make Ghost Stories my number 79.
And it's an 8 go.
Number 78 is new to my list this year. If you know me, you know that I love worker placement games, so it's not surprising that Edo is on my list. Edo, the game of shoguns it's in Japan, I guess trying to build cities in Japan really is what you're doing. You're getting the wood and the stone and the workers together that you need to try and build cities. But it's got a really cool system. You have a placement tray, so you have 3 actions you can do each turn. You can place workers with those actions, and each action comes on a square, and so there's 4 actions each square you can do. So if you're choosing one action to do on that square, you're not going to be able to do the other 3. And then you can also commit a certain number of people to that action. Sometimes only 1, sometimes as much as 4 or 5. It also has some nice interaction with the board. So some things you have to do with the worker that you have in front of you, but you also have to have somebody on the board or to do kind of a tandem action. I just started playing it this year. I really enjoy it. I saw they were putting an expansion out for us, so definitely have to check the expansion. But in the meantime, I'll enjoy playing Edo, my number 78.
7 adventures.
When some people think of adventure, they think of Indiana Jones. When I think of adventure, I think of my number 77 game, well, The Adventures, which is essentially Indiana Jones, but in a box, where I can be Indiana Jones, or take the role of an adventurer like Indiana Jones, and run through a temple, gathering up all the treasures, dodging rolling boulders and closing walls, and lava pits, and raging rivers, and falling bridges, and all that just in one game. The Adventures is great fun. It's really kind of almost a push your luck game where how long you can stay in one place to gather the treasures before you move on, and can you get it all done before the boulder seals you in, because the more treasures you carry, the slower you move. A lot of fun when you have a lot of other players you're playing against. The more people you have in that temple trying to gather up all the treasures, the more challenging it becomes. But I really enjoy just the flavor and feel that comes with the Adventurers. When I like to introduce to new players, friends who played at our 24-hour Extra Life this past year. If you like adventure, you'll love my number. Oh, that was so cheesy. I'm sorry. I apologize. My number 77, the Adventurers.
Talisman.
96, tandem.
My number 76 game is one I've been playing since I was in college. It's currently on its 4th edition, and it's one that I still enjoy to this day, and that's Talisman. I started playing Talisman back at 2nd edition, then 3rd edition was kind of but 4th edition, Fantasy Flight got it, took it back to its 2nd edition roots, and it's really just totally blown me away. There's tons of expansions for it, tons of miniatures for this game, and character classes, and adventure cards, and some people kind of are anti-Talisman because it's very random. It's draw the card. It has kind of almost a Munchkin-esque feel to it with a little bit more control than Munchkin has. But just the endless variability that comes with this game is what makes it. I could never ever play the same game twice, and there are still expansions coming for it. Still waiting to see the Sheriff that was in the original 2nd edition city, or some of those, what I call them, subclasses or proto-classes. Classes that you get on top of whatever race you are, class you start off with. I loved being the Minotaur Sheriff back in the 2nd edition. That was awesome. I'd like to see that again for a 4th edition, but in the meantime, just keep it coming, and I'll keep playing Talisman, my number 76.
Number 9, first and goal.
I'm normally not into sports games, but I got to play one this year that really impressed me. That's First and Goal, the game of football with dice, where, well, the core game, both sides use the same set of dice, but if you splurge the expansions, then each team has its own set of dice, which, you know, some teams are better at rushing, some are better at passing, some are better at defense. So you can really tailor your team to how you want it to behave on the field. The gameplay itself is, how to describe it, the offense will have a card, the defense will have a card, and they'll pick a play, and then you'll kind of cross-reference to see, okay, if the offense chose the medium pass, then the defense did the corner option. I don't have the cards in front of me, so I can't think of the plays. Anyway, you see that tells you which dice to roll, and then you roll and see how many yards were gained or lost, or if there's a turnover or a penalty, or if you surged ahead and got that extra yardage, you get to roll again. Very well thought out, one that we enjoy playing a lot. I really want to try and get a league going on this, see if we can get our own bracket, so to speak, going. But that's First and Goal, my number 75.
Number 9, 4, Quest Close to West.
All right.
I was a big fan of Axis and Allies growing up. As a matter of fact, I still have a copy today, but Wizards of the Coast took Axis and Allies and added the Dungeons and Dragons spin to it and made Conquest of Narath. So Conquest of Narath is a fantastic game in which there's 4 different races: the orcs, the humans, dwarves, the elves, and then the big chaos undead guys, and they're all on the board at the same time, so it's going to be like good versus evil or some against all. But they're all right on top of each other. I mean, your borders are right next to each other. You are going to have to engage in combat right from the get-go. There is no building up your forces and trying to launch a unstoppable wave. It's just slugging it out from the start. I don't think I've won this yet, but I've gotten to play with some friends of mine. I know they enjoy it a whole lot. So through their enjoyment, I enjoy it even more. And that's why it's so high on my list at number 74, Conquest of Narath.
Number 6, War of the Ring.
My number 73 is one I don't own. It's one of the few on my list that I don't, but I have friends that own it, so I don't feel the need to go out and get it. But it's basically Lord of the Rings, the game. That's War of the Ring. Recently re-released as a 2nd edition. War of the Ring is the whole quest of the ring from the Shire all the way to Mount Doom. The good guys trying to make that trek across Middle-earth. In the meantime, the forces of Mordor are trying to conquer the human kingdoms, and it's just a race against who can get there first. The forces of good get to destroy the ring in the fire's volcano, or will Sauron and his forces conquer Middle-earth before that can happen? There's the tons of miniatures for this game. I mean, a ton of miniatures, and cards that represent the things that the miniatures don't. There's all abilities. A couple of times, every time I've played this game, it has come down to the wire, where literally if the good didn't win on this turn, evil was going to win the very next turn. It was that close, which makes each game that much more intense, that much more enjoyable, and that's why War of the Ring is on my list at number 73.
Number 92, Step is the Door.
Try to come up with some kind of fancy intro for this next game, but let's face it. Super Dungeon Explorer is basically a video game in a box. It harkens very much back to the old 16-bit Gauntlet and Nintendo games of yesteryear, a decade ago. It even has 8-bit and 16-bit as classifications of monsters that you can put out on the field. But it's just basically the idea of there's a dungeon that's out there, and heroes are going into the dungeon to destroy the spawn points and the big boss, because the spawn points are spilling out more and more monsters that need to be dispatched by our heroes. This game is just fun. There's no ifs, ands, ors, or buts about it. This is just a fun game, whether you're playing the heroes or the villains. The caricatures of each one, it's really hard to take this game too seriously, but it's still a game. It still has the rules to follow. It's still pretty serious, but it's more than that. It's just fun. I had a chance to play both sides, the villains and the heroes, and it's hard to keep from making electronic sounds while you're playing it, or making Mario references or Zelda references. If you haven't tried it yet, I'd highly recommend you check it out. My number 72, Super Dungeon Explorer.
Number 91, Coils.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier, worker placement games are one of my all-time favorite types of games. I also enjoy deck builders, and there are quite a few on my list. But right now, I don't want to talk about a deck builder. I want to talk about a dice builder, and that's Quarriors from WizKids. What Quarriors does, it takes the concept of the deck building game and substitutes dice for the cards. So instead of purchasing cards each turn, you're purchasing dice, adding to a bag, and each round you take out 6 of those dice, roll them, and based on the results of what you roll is what you have to work with that round. It's a great game because you're attacking everybody each turn, so there's that interactivity of trying to knock out other people's dice while making sure your dice lasts all the way around to your turn again, so you can bank them and get the points off of them. There's tons of expansions out for this, lots of replayability. Definitely, easily making my all-time list at number 71, Quarriors. Alright, well, that'll close out this episode of ISGP. We'll be back soon with games number 70 through 61, and hopefully we'll get that Eldritch Horror rule set posted soon also. In the meantime, you can like us on Facebook, you can follow us on Twitter, or you can go to the website, which, hey, maybe it'll be updated, maybe it won't. You'll have to go check it out to find out. Or in the meantime, subscribe to us here on YouTube so you can find out when the latest videos get uploaded. And until next time, we'll catch you then. Thanks for watching. Bye.